Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's so good to be back here, guys. So in today's video I will continue my transition story, and hopefully I end the story here of what life was like in Malaysia, because I don't want it to be too long and to get boring. So I'm going to try and encapsulate the whole story in this final video. A quick recap of what the story has been like so far. Like I said, I got married in 2015, did NYC all through 2015, and went to join my husband in 2016 in Malaysia. So about 5 months after getting into Malaysia, I think I got a part-time job. So if you're someone that is conversant with Malaysia very well, you know it is very tough and difficult to get a job. Malaysia is just a country that is mainly good for studying. It's very good for higher education, and that's just it. Even if you'll be getting a job, it's most likely will be in the academic field. So this part-time job I got, it was for teaching kids. Being in the university community, there were so many students that brought their kids along for studying, and these kids needed like a sort of semi-formal teaching classes. So it was one of these teaching classes I got a part-time job in, where I was teaching children. So it was a fun job for me, because then I was expecting my baby and I was opportune to be around kids a lot. So you know, it gave me a kind of experience of what it is like being with children, right? So I did this job for like roughly another 4 or 5 months till I was ready to have my baby. So when I had my baby, I couldn't go back to this job, and I think I'll be making a separate video on my pregnancy and my delivery story on another day, because that's another story entirely. If you want to see a video on what my pregnancy story was like, of what the medical service is like in Malaysia, I can do a special video on that. Leave a comment down in the comment section below if you really want me to do that video, and I'm gonna make it for you. Now I was a mother, having to deal with motherhood in all of its glory. There was a lot of learning to do. It was a very big learning curve for me, and you know, I had to just with the help of Google, I was able to wing it. I was in this phase in my life where I was just always indoor. I didn't have anything occupying my time except that I just had to take care of my child and just, you know, take care of the home and all of that. I was just a housewife basically, and somewhere along the line I just don't know what I wanted to do. I was just like, no, I can't just keep staying indoor. At a point I just couldn't take it anymore. So I was always so sad, depressed. Yeah, so I just felt like I just need to do something with my life. No, because I like to think that I am a very ambitious person. So at this point in my life, I just couldn't handle being indoor anymore, you know. So along the way, my husband saw my dilemma, and he was like, oh, probably it's time you pick up a master's. So I started looking out for schools that offered library and information science, because that was the course I took for my first degree, and I really wanted to continue with that line because it's something I really like. So unfortunately for me, there was no school around that offered library and information science. The closest school that offered library and information science was over 6 hours away, and it was in Kuala Lumpur, that scale. And we were wondering, is it going to be possible? KL is a long distance. And we're just like, okay, let's just vibes and inshallah this, let's just go with the flow. So I applied for the school, submitted the necessary documents. So fast forward to like, I think 4 weeks after, so I received the admission offer from UITM, and with the admission offer came tuition fee and all the other fees that I had to pay, and it was a whole lot, guys. It was a lot of money for us right at that moment in our lives. But kudos to my husband. My husband was really supportive of this. Like, I'm always grateful and thankful for him. Like, he went all out. God bless him. God bless him so much. So another thing is, UITM don't admit international students. It's mainly for local students, only for Malaysians. But luckily for me, I was one of the first international students that got admitted into UITM, and I was one of the first international students at the Faculty of Information Management. So now I've gotten admission. The next hurdle to cross was how I will always get to school. So luckily for me, classes were on Saturdays, on weekends. We just had to figure out how I will get myself to Shah Alam before classes start on Saturday. So the way I did it was, from Friday, Saturday, Sundays, they are my off days from home. So what I did was, I take night buses on Friday. Buses in Malaysia moves at night. Those public buses, they move at night. So I take night buses from 11 p.m. till 6 a.m. the next morning. Upon arriving 6 a.m. the next morning in Shah Alam, so there's a kind of campus shuttle that transports students on and off campus. So I take this campus shuttle from 6 o'clock to campus, and once I get to campus, I brushing up myself. I try and freshen up, wash my face, brush my teeth, do my salah, make my askar, and I do all of this quickly, just in time before class starts. So it's always a marathon class from 8 o'clock till 4 p.m. in the evening. Before I talk about classes and all of that, so we had the intention of deferring the admission till next session because it was just a whole lot of money, and we thought, okay, probably we'll save up for it so that at least when is the next session would have a lump sum of money to pay for tuition. So upon getting to my faculty to explain that I want to defer and all of that, they were already waiting for me, And so when I got there and I introduced myself, they were like, "Oh, who you're the Africa? We've been waiting for you. Come. Bring your documents. We have to register you quickly." And I couldn't even say. And we were going with the intention of deferring till next session, but the reception we got, they were like so eager, and they were like, just bring a document to register you and all of that. We couldn't even say we want to defer. So that was how they registered me for that session, even though I didn't go with the intention of being registered. But because of the reception we got, we couldn't even say we want to defer. So I registered. So after I did my registration, classes was slated for like a week after. So we went back home and I started preparing myself mentally for school and all of that. It wasn't easy, guys. It was not. It was very, very tough. Like, first of all, this is a postgraduate class. There's no spoon feeding. And the kind of educational system I was exposed to back home in Nigeria, it was quite different. So you're expected to go all out and do the homework yourself. So we take 4 classes in a week. And for each of these classes, you have conceptual papers to write. You have article reviews. You have 10 papers, assignments. There's practical, there's field work. Like, it was a whole lot of workload for me. And considering the fact that for me, that's not just the only workload I have a baby, I have a home to take care of. Like, it was just a lot. And at the point I was like, who sent me? Like, this is just a whole lot of work. It was a whole lot. And sometimes I'm having to submit about 3-4 assignments in a week, and it's just all like marathon. And sometimes some of these assignments I finish them on the bus on my way to school, and when I get to school I just quickly rush up to print it out and submit just in time. Like, it was a very tough period in my life. Like, it was a lot of work. Well, I would like to say at this point of the video that Malaysia is a very good country for higher education. If you're someone that can't afford going to the US or UK, I think Malaysia is a very perfect and good option for you. The educational system and the curriculum is well structured in a way that you really go through the system and you come out good for it. So prior to going for my master's, I had very little writing skill, and I was able to build my writing skill during my master's year, and it was better at the end of the program. And so many other things like your research skills, your writing skills, your data analysis skills. So there was so much seminars and workshops organized for us concerning how to use various data analysis applications like the SPSS, PLS. So it was the educational system in Malaysia is built in a way that it's rigorous, but you really go through the process, and there's just so much to learn. Yeah, I really appreciate the Malaysian educational system. Another thing is there was a lot of presentation to do. From Nigeria, I didn't really have exposure to what presentation is like in the real sense of the word presentation, but in Malaysia you're exposed to doing an article review and presenting your review in front of the whole class. So, like, unfortunately for me, I was a very shy person, but it helped me break out of my shell, and and it helped me hone my presentation skills. And I like the way education is structured in Malaysia. It is not just the whole 100% is not just your exam and test. So you're also tested on discussions, on your contributions in class. You're expected to contribute in class. Like, so after our lecturer has given her lectures, she throws it back to the class, and you're expected to like have an input and also have a kind of class discussion. There's also an extra mark for that. So the learning process in Malaysia was all encompassing. Another thing is that we had a lot of practicals to do. So as a library and information science student, you're expected to have a little bit of knowledge on what classification and cataloging is like. So we had these practical classes where we go to the cataloging lab and classification labs to use the resource descriptive access materials to classifier and catalog books. It was a very eye-opening journey for me, and even though my first semester result was not really good, it was horrible, I was able to, get the hang of it and, quickly tighten my seatbelt and get to work. I can remember when I got my result, I didn't even inform my husband I've gotten my results, because I wanted to check it secretly first to see if I had good grades before I showed it to my husband. Like, I was that tense. It was that tense for me. Like, but thankfully I had good grades, and at the end of the day I had a CGPA of 3.5/4. It was rigorous, but I stick to it, and yeah, I followed through. I think from my second semester I like tightened up my seat belt and became more serious, and like I really took it seriously. Like, I'm not going anywhere, I have to face this. So I faced it and I scaled through. So if you're an international student in Malaysia, or you're thinking of going to Malaysia for your higher education studies, yeah, and initially it might be difficult, but it's not something you cannot do. By just being committed, I think it's something you can do, because I believe that we Nigerians or Africans in general, we are resilient people. So if you really, really put your mind to it, it's something you can achieve. So I'd like to talk about what it was like being an international student in class. So being the only black African student in the class, it was very, very tough and challenging. And everybody had cliques, like they were cliques of friends, and you don't want to be that outsider in a clique. So I was just always by myself. Although luckily for me, I had like another classmate that was also from Nigeria. It was an Hausa man. It was an elderly Hausa man. So it was like, at least we were able to like share opinion, and it was good to see someone from back home being in that class. So being the only black girl in class, and because I don't want to be that outsider in a clique, I was just always by myself, minding my own business and drinking water. But at the end of the day, it went well, and the program came to an end, and I'm still friends with some of my colleagues even up till now, especially my colleagues from Nigeria. We are still very good friends. I would also like to talk about the transportation system in Malaysia. So after school, from 4 p.m. after school, I have to take like the campus shuttle back to the bus stop, and from the bus stop I have to link a bus going to KL Central. So upon getting to KL Central, I will take like the train. So there's a very beautiful train network in Malaysia. There's the LRT, there's the KTM, and there's also the monorail, the flyover rails that are very, very fast in Malaysia. So all this makes transportation very easy. And I also like to say that transportation is also very, very cheap in Malaysia. Using the trains and the monorails, you can get transported from one place to another. It's very, very cheap. So prior to me completing my master's program, so my husband secured a job in the Middle East, and I was just lucky to complete my program in time for us to move over to the United Arab Emirates. So after the completion of my master's, I finished my project and submitted my project, and that was the end of the master's program for me. So unfortunately, COVID came and we couldn't even have a graduation, a convocation ceremony. But unfortunately for me, my results and my certificates were sent over to me here in the UAE, and that was how I completed my master's program, and that was how we transitioned from Malaysia to the UAE. If you've watched the video up to this point, thank you so much. I would like to hear from you guys. Are you an international student in Malaysia? Can you share your experience with me, or anywhere in the world? I'd like to hear your experience as an international student in a foreign man's land. And if you are someone that is preparing to go study in a foreign man's land, I hope this video has been useful for you, and I hope you've enjoyed the story up to this point. If you like my story, kindly give a thumbs up, comment in the comment section down below. I'd like to hear from you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.